Welcome back to Leadership Rules, where we believe leadership isn't just a role, it's a way of life. So whether you're leading a team, a community, or simply leading yourself, we're here to help you unlock the rules to lead your life with purpose and impact. I am Nick Niglio, joined by my co-host, Marnie Stockman. Together, we co-authored Lead It Like Lasso and The Business of You, and today we are thrilled to have Jason Van Nus with us.
Yeah, we are. I love this. Jason is a self-described gentle disruptor. I really like that. Want to hear more on that. Keynote speaker, apprenticeship and talent pipeline specialist, and unapologetic advocate for high school talent, which is also awesome. Jason is CEO of Wynn Regional College and Career Academy, which is I think that's a super interesting venture, and works really at the overlap of education, industry, workforce development, and economic development, all about helping schools, employers, and communities build stronger work-based learning programs, youth apprenticeships, talent pipelines, CTE partnerships, all the things. What we really love about Jason's work is he's not just talking about career readiness from 30,000 feet. He's like deep in it, helping students gain real skills, real access, and real opportunity. So Jason, welcome to Leadership Rules.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So we like to start with some biscuits with the boss questions. So first question, first concert, best concert.
Oh gosh. It would be in, it doesn't happen anymore. It used to be in Music Midtown. It was in downtown Atlanta. And it was really good. Probably my best one. Gosh, people, I don't want this to be construed in any way as political, but I was really impressed with how musically inclined Kid Rock is. Yeah. Like he played every instrument on the stage: harmonica, drums, regular guitar, bass guitar. It didn't hurt that he had Pamela Anderson when he was taking the time over him in like a cage, like his eye candy. That was a really good concert. And then also that same venue, they have Bone Thugs and Harmony was there, and I grew up and would listen to Bone Thugs and Harmony, so I went and saw them live. So yeah, that was an enjoyable time. I don't even know that Music Midtown still happens anymore, does it? Nick, you're in Atlanta.
It does not. I actually think they've kind of rekindled it as a different brand, but yeah, I remember when I moved down in the mid to late 90s, that was a thing for sure.
Yeah.
Easier question: coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dog or cat?
Dog.
Okay. Book format: paper, audio, or ebook?
I'm gonna throw you a curveball. I do both. I love listening to the book while I read it. I like having the book in my hand, but I also have 3 children, and so sometimes it's hard to focus. So I'll listen to the audio book while I read the paper book. I love taking notes. Like if you look at a book that I read, it's sticky noted and highlighted and dog-eared and everything. So
love it.
I'm with you on that. As we segue into the meat of the topic, leadership, art or science?
Man, art. Yeah.
I think we would tend to agree with you. It's a little bit of both, but yeah, it's so much art into it.
I think that can be a hybrid, but I feel like when you get too much into the sciencey side, you don't leave enough room to be responsive. I think science is more of a response, if that makes sense, and art is more of a proactive approach to being leadership. I want to do things outside the box. I mean, science, in terms of leadership, again, there's always some proven methods. I think there's value there, but I want to do things that have not been done before, and it's hard to do that when you're strictly going by the book, doing letter by letter in the textbook. I want to bend the rules, push the rule envelope a little bit, do things that haven't been done before, and then learn lessons. Oh gosh, that did not work very well. Let me not do that again. But I mean, I'm a former college athlete, so some of my best lessons learned have been failures and defeats, and I think that's where I tend more on the art side.
Well, now I have to ask, what sport?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. So, Jason, Marnie, when she was introducing you, she talked a little bit about the Wynn Academy. Tell us about that. I think it's interesting. I've done some little research on my end, but tell us about the Academy itself and what got you into it.
Yeah. So it's a dream job for me. been in career tech education for 22 years. And however you would qualify or quantify my skill set, I think being the CEO of a career academy is a really good match. So my job will be to be the face. Now we're building it from scratch. So your research was probably hard because it literally doesn't exist until August. That's when we're launching in August with 3 pathways: phlebotomy, EMT, and hospitality. But yeah, so what it is I love making the case that high school students are a viable solution to a lot of the critical labor shortages that we're seeing in our communities. That's what my PhD, my dissertation is that's what I'm writing on now. And they're often an overlooked segment of the labor market. And so I had a lot of success doing that for a school system. And this offered me a chance to do it for a region. So I'm still in my community, but I'll be serving serving the students from right now 6, in the next day or two, 7 schools. And a lot of those schools are from a rural community. So we're talking about putting in a $500,000 engineering lab, or $500,000 heavy equipment operation lab with the simulators. Each one of those simulators is $100,000. So you begin to, I think schools get beat up, especially the small rural schools, because the people are saying, well, why doesn't my kid have an opportunity to do this? And why aren't you, the end of the state comes in and says, why aren't you putting out students from these high demand career initiatives that the governor put out? Well, it's because there's some financial constraints there. Yep. And so these, so what we're going to do is we're crowdsourcing the academy from industry who needs the talent. And maybe a few people who need a write-off and just want to stroke us a check. We really want partners, but we'll take the money also. But in all seriousness, we are crowdsourcing this from industry who want to have access to these students. And we are inviting those rural schools to send their students to the academy for free, which allows them to take place and participate in pathways that they otherwise would not be able to do because of the financial constraints that exist in a small community. So whether it's financial or enrollment, even if a school could afford to put in, $500,000 heavy equipment operation simulator lab, they may only have 10 kids to do it, right? Yeah. They may only have, if it's a small school, looking at maybe K through 12, 600 kids, they may not have the enrollment. So this allows us to say, hey, look, you have 5 kids who want to do this phlebotomy pathway? Great. Send them to us. We'll serve them. You keep the FTE. We're not going to mess with your money. We'll source this from private industry. We'll build the labs and then pipeline those students directly into those laboratories. So I'm very excited about it. We open in August.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's
I'm
crazy
curious.
cool.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I see the upside from an industry perspective for sure. But how receptive has the industry around you been, and
Very.
How much are they chomping at the bit, I guess, is one way to ask it, to kind of get involved with a program like this?
Yeah, very. I mean, obviously, I think anytime you do something like this, the biggest obstacle when you bring a new product to market is going to be education, right? Yeah. Why is what we're doing better than what is existing? And the answer has been pretty simple. Industry is participating because they're not getting what they need from the traditional CT program. Now, please don't understand, I'm not bad mouthing these. When you have a school, a lot of times your CT programs are treated and operated more like elective courses, meaning the students in the culinary lab aren't there because they want to be professional chefs. They're there because they happen to have an open block, 3rd block, and they say, oh, you can take culinary. And so I've always said that without industry partnerships, you don't have a CT program, you have elective courses. And a lot of schools have to run their CT programs like elective courses because either they're too big, operation, logistics, scheduling, they're moving kids around. So that's one reason that they've been receptive. And then 2, when you try to differentiate and bifurcate the services that we're providing, we are going to do so mainly through 3 ways. People say, well, how's this different than my CT program at my current school? Or how's it different than dual enrollment with Technical College, which is one of our biggest partners, Wiregrass Technical College. They're one of our biggest partners. And it's 3 ways. 1, further, faster. So if you were to enroll in dual enrollment class to take phlebotomy, that's a year-long course. You enroll through Wynn College and Career Academy, it's a 1-semester course. So they can complete that course faster. 2 is stacking credentials. If a student is interested in medical, they want to be a doctor, right? They can go take phlebotomy in a semester and then come back and take EMT the next semester and really understand the trauma side of that and emerge credentialed. So that's another thing, is we're not just educating, we're educating to credential and getting those students credentialed. So further, faster, stacking credentials. And the other one is my background, my specialty is the career immersion or the work-based learning side. So layering these things in with not just taking phlebotomy. Traditionally, a dual enrollment program with a technical college, you're going to get the curriculum, but there's not really going to be the career immersion side of placement, shadowing opportunities, work-based learning, apprenticeships. Those things, they do happen in the technical college, but a massive part of our program is going to be based on the career immersion side. So case in point, hospitality program. We have a very large theme park in Valdosta, Georgia called Wild Adventures. They're a big part of this. There could be, some of our hospitality students could spend a couple of weeks out there. Some of our hospitality students could spend a couple of weeks with a company called the Williams Group. They own a lot of the hotels here. And so hospitality, travel, tourism, event management, like not just learning in the classroom, but actually taking maybe 3 weeks and then splitting our kids up in 3 blocks, 3 segments, and having them rotate through 3 different things and getting that deep career immersion. And I really think that when it comes to this, I would say to your listeners, to industry partners, really consider this. Work-based learning with Career Academy is whether it's their traditional CTE program. I mentioned earlier that they are viable solutions to critical labor shortages, but what takes is industry having the vision to do so. And I would say if they're on the fence, here's my pitch is, your tax dollars are going and investing in your school systems. You may not be giving the money directly to them, but it's going to the state, the capital coming back into schools in the forms of grants, fuel, buses, food, capital outlay, construction, equipment, teachers, all that stuff. Everything. I mean, you're paying schools to build talent. So if these industry partners don't have a strategy to hire that talent, they're essentially paying schools to build talent for their competitors. Yeah. That's what they're doing. So that's why work-based learning has a really high threshold of success, is because you're accessing a traditionally untapped segment of the labor market. And you're pipelining those students into the industries that are funding the schools to build the talent. And it doesn't make, if you think of it this way, it doesn't make any sense that an industry, or I guess the question would be, what other industry would succeed in investing in an asset for 12 years? Only let it walk away right when it becomes returnable. So we do
when you put it that way.
like Google, like no company would be profitable if you invested for 12 years and then you say, okay, well, we're done with our investment portion. I hope you go and just find a successful life and become a returnable, taxable citizen in somebody else's community. And I'm not advocating to trap students, but I'm saying why not strategize and keep those students local and have them and pipeline those students while they're in high school into the industries that are paying us to develop that talent. That's a model that I've proven works. And I'm excited. I'm not building something new. I'm building a new career academy, but the model's not new. I'm just scaling what I've already built. I'm scaling on proof of concept. This is already successful. We just have to scale it.
I think that's pretty exciting. So something you said at the beginning has been sticking in the back of my mind, having been in multiple different schools in a rural area, and what you said about the elective portion of it. So I taught in a school that had a dedicated career tech center behind it. And then I was assistant principal at a school with CTE as part of basically the elective portion of it. And I never had problems when they were all in the CTE program building because they really wanted to be there. I more had problems with the kid that didn't want to be in culinary and got stuck in culinary. Although, let's be honest, they all wanted to be in culinary because you got food in that one. But some of the other ones that maybe weren't popular did cause for some interesting elements. So I think what you're doing super interesting and good for kids. And I love the gentle disruptor piece of like your LinkedIn title. So what else are you trying to disrupt along there?
So let me say this. I always want to disrupt for the sake of efficacy. I never want to disrupt for the sake of being contrarian. I think there's too many people who just want to be contrarian or they don't like authority, right? Like that's not me. When I say disruptive, I try to be gentle. Sometimes I'm not. 'Cause I'm really passionate. Like I think people who like work and who like what they do we get along great. Like, I'm a doer. I love working. But the people who typically have rubbed the wrong way unintentionally are the people who want to just sit in their corner and ride their career out, right? Then I got 5 more years so I can retire, and I'm coming in, I'm pushing and doing and building, and they're like, hey man, slow down. Like, I am someone you have to reel in more than you have to push. I don't know if you guys know that about me.
I think I would have guessed that.
But that's the disruptive side, is just never doing it for the sake of being a contrarian, doing it for the sake of doing what is right and doing what could be better. And if I'm wrong, the only way you're a gentle disruptor is if you're also humble when you're wrong. You can't double down and be like, well, just there was a reason. Like, no, okay, I was disrupting the model, and I thought this was a better way to do it, and it wasn't the best way to do it, and I've learned from that. But continuing to push the envelope and trying to push career tech education into efficacy and less about compliance. I mean, I hate compliance driven stuff. Compliance is good if the goal is efficacy, but most of our career tech educators, they're just about compliance driven. It's CCRPI, it's Perkin 5, it's did they pass their pathway, did they this, and I'm like, yeah, but no, those are the wrong metrics. I don't care if the student passed their end of pathway test. I want them to, but will that student be hired and be successful?
Yeah.
The reason we don't evaluate that is because it's hard to evaluate that. That involves tracking students and doing those things. So those are the types of things I'm trying to disrupt. The elective courses versus CT programs, one of them, just making sure that we need to ask questions about our educational model as a whole. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to query the altar of education. It's okay to do that. And sometimes you rub people the wrong way when you do that. And I never intended, that's never my goal, but you know, I'm from the South. So they say, if I step on your toes, then just sit higher in the pew. So that's
I've never heard that one, but I like it.
So I'm going to comment on that, and I'm probably going to rub people the wrong way. I think the K-12 experience, the college and career readiness experience, is in major need of disruption. You know, as somebody who has been and led small to medium sized businesses for the last 30 years, you know, there's a problem, right? The students are coming into the workforce and they are not ready they may be finished. We often say finished doesn't equal ready, right?
Yeah,
they have been compliant, you know, in terms of the education system checking the boxes for what the student, what they list the student needs to do. But in reality, these students are not ready. And that's obviously Marnie and I know you and Marnie kind of got to talking over some of these concepts. And I think one of the reasons was the reverse career fair. And Marnie and I, we talk about that quite a bit. And we want to dig into that because we know that you've done it, you've tried it, we've seen the videos. So I'm just curious, you know, what made you actually try it, and what changed when the students became the ones telling their stories instead of walking around hoping that someone would notice them?
So what made me try it was a good friend of mine. I'll say her name, Susan. She's Susan Fuller. She's just up the road in Cripps County. We were just brainstorming together and trying to figure out how to solve the problem. And we had the first step comes from this: having actual viable advisory committees. Both of us had heard from our industry partners that students didn't have the ability to self-advocate, meaning they emerge from these phlebotomy programs, right? They can draw blood, but can they sell that skill set and the value of that skill set to their employer? And we were hearing that they couldn't. And self-advocacy has a lot of tentacles in other areas, right? And so she and I were brainstorming and trying to figure out, you know, how do we bridge this gap between the lab and application, right? A welder can weld, but they crap the bed in the job interview because they can't identify and articulate, here's what I can weld, but here's what I know, and here's how that brings value to your company. And so we had noticed in traditional career fairs, you bring in all the industry partners and the employers, and they bring in all their tables and their swag and their pop-up banners and their flashing lights and their bowls of candy and their squishy balls and all the things they're trying to trick kids to come to them. And then you release students into the room, and students have never been taught to engage. The majority of their social interactions are on the phone or digital, right? They've never been taught to engage with people. So they typically huddle in the small. I mean, you have those 1 or 2, 3, 4 or 5 kids who maybe crush it because they have home training and they know how to talk to people and look them in the eye. And so we were brainstorming, what can we do to force engagement, right? To force it. You can play those little games like,
bingo cards.
Yeah, where you're like, whatever. Now I do have
scavenger
bingo
hunts.
I flipped the role of that too. But we said, what if we just flip the roles? What if the students spend the semester, we teach them how to self-advocate. We teach them those employability skills. We teach them how to market and sell their skills, and or sell themselves. Just learn how to sell yourself. Whatever modicum of success I've had is not because if I walk into a room with one other person, I guarantee I'm not the smartest person in that room. I'm not the smartest person, but I'm pretty good with people and learning how to talk to people. And so I try to instill that in the students. And so we spent the semester doing this. They build their own booths. They have to have some type of visual that articulates their skill set. We use a program called U-Science, which is the engine that drives that self-efficacy. That's the U-Science, like the science of U-Science. And so we said, well, let's just try this. Again, we're disrupting the career fair, right? Let's just try. So we flip the roles. Students show up. They have their booth. They dress up like they're the salesman, or they dress up in a contextually appropriate way. So my welders wore their welding uniform. I had one kid who wore a welding helmet popped up the whole day. Yeah. Had another student who came in his electrical uniform. And so some of our healthcare students would wear scrubs. So you can either dress up like you're selling yourself or dress up in a contextually appropriate way. And then you release the employers, or what I call the alphas, into the room. Now that's a totally different dynamic because the students have to engage. That's their whole purpose. Yeah. And the employers want to engage. That's what they want when we put them on the other side. We can't force the kids to go to them, or force the kids. Even if we make them go, we can't force those interactions. So now I'm training the students. You have no idea how this conversation is going to go. You have to be ready to respond to anything. And so that was what did it, was that gap between what they learn in the lab and being able to sell that in value, whether it's a networking event, a job interview, or just casually you find yourself in the elevator with the mayor and you want an internship. Like, can you sell your skills in a really quick way? And so I'm a data nerd. I was collecting data. And I knew it was a home run. I shared this with Marnie when we met a couple of weeks ago. I knew it was a home run when 38%, a little over 30% of our, right at 30, it was 29%, excuse me. Like almost 30% of the alphas who we surveyed after that first time said they wanted to spend more time at the event. 71% said it was a perfect time, and 29% said they wanted to spend more time. So when you have almost 30% of industry partners saying, we want to be there longer, like I was like, oh yeah, we got a run here. And the kids loved it. They don't like the lead up to it, but afterwards, like, oh, that was so great. It was so much easier. It was so much more effective. So that was how we built that in, and tried it, knew it was going to be a little disruptive, tried it, and never dreamed it would get the attention that it has. I mean, I've traveled all over the country presenting that model. And it's free. Like I'm not selling it. Like it's just a really good model. Like I'm not trying to tell anybody anything other than it just works. I'll give you all the stuff I've got, right?
It's interesting because you say that the kids don't like the work up to it. And Nick and I talk about this all the time, that they have to do the work, and it's not checklisty in the way so many of the credentialed pieces really are. It is self-reflection. It is prepping for an interview the right way. It is understanding who you are and how to talk about it. And we talk about that all of the time. So I get exactly that is the struggle. But if you want it done right, that's the work, even helping kids with college essays, which is, the opposite end of going right to the, the career model, is you have to do the work, and the work is figuring out how you stand out. So totally get that.
I call it they get itchy or scratchy. Like if you put me in a wool sweater in the summer, I can still function, but I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I want the kids to be uncomfortable. I do. I don't mean that in a rap, so parents don't email me and be like, I want them to be uncomfortable. I want to push them to failure. I'm not rooting for them to fail, but I want them to fail in a safe environment where I can pick them up and say, here's how you could have done better. Like, let's not make that mistake again. But the problem is we're not pushing our kids to failure, not even in our most advanced classes. You know, the majority of AP classes in our country let students retake their test.
Yeah.
How's that pushing students to failure at the height of academia, right? We don't push them to failure. And so I would say if we're not pushing students to failure, making them uncomfortable in the classroom, not emotionally, not like just making them push out of their comfort zone. If we're not doing that, then I'm essentially have no value in the equation. Like it's my job to push you past where you're comfortable and then to build you back up. That's what the military does, right? That's why they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
They push people past their comfort zone, and when they're broken, they build them back up. Now, I don't yell at kids, but I want to put them in a scenario where they're like, "Oh, I've never done this before. This is uncomfortable." I'm like, yes, this is learning. When you're uncomfortable and you have to build your way out of it, that's learning, and that's kind of the model when I was in the classroom and classroom practitioner. That was always what I wanted to do, was make them scratchy, make them itchy, and be like, oh, this isn't comfortable, but I'll find a way to get this wool sweater off eventually. Or you just get used to
not a jog into the ocean with a log over their head kind of way, but
yeah, exactly. We're not going to drown you till you pass out, but you're right.
Yeah. So, you know, if a school leader is listening and thinking they want to build stronger work-based learning apprenticeships, right? I mean, I think all of this goes along with the reverse career fair. It's obviously a first move they can make, but what's something else that they could do that doesn't take a giant initiative that moved the needle from your experience?
And for building a work-based learning program or CTE or in what context?
Yeah, work-based learning, I think specifically.
Yeah, so work-based learning, traditionally, gosh, this is going to ruffle some feathers, but you got to find the right person. And I'm not saying I'm the right person. What I'm saying is, if you're putting someone in that role who doesn't like going out and knocking on doors and cold calling,
networking themselves,
networking, you've got the wrong person. Like, if you've got someone whose rule is you can apply for work-based learning once you already have a job, like, that's not work-based learning. Work-based learning is, my job is to go and recruit industry partners to be the capstone to their career tech pathway. So I would say data was a big thing, tracking students, finding out how many students are graduating with, or, certifying themselves in this pathway, and how many apprenticeships do I have in that pathway? And then beginning to build those based on enrollments in those programs, tracking those students. So you have to have someone who's good at networking, good at selling themselves. And I know that sounds weird because it's not about us, but if you're not likable, or you're not comfortable networking, that becomes really hard to go to a chamber event and speak in front of 400 people and articulate why this is different than what they've had. So I'll just say, pushing past the typical nepotism placement, work-based learning is a placement that a lot of people see as let's put someone there at the end of their career so they can get the Perkins pay bump. They can get the Perkins pay bump. No, like, this is a program needing to have someone who's a go-getter. So hire the right person. And then, from my experience, let them do what they're good at doing. Like, don't try to make them, if they're a work-based learning coordinator, don't try to make them a classroom teacher. That's not what they are. Yeah. Don't try to give them duties to monitor, bus duty and lunch duty and oh, well, you don't have a class, so I need you to cover this third block or this fourth block. Like, protect that person and let them do what the job calls for them to do. And then if they don't do it, then move them. Find somebody who will. But work-based learning, to me, is one of the single most effective pathways, because it is and can serve, when run correctly, as the capstone to every pathway that's offered in your institution. Every single one of them.
So I kind of have to laugh because I spoke to somebody who does work-based learning who had come from a very traditional education path career. And the first time she wanted to go meet with an industry partner, she said to her boss, like, I was going to go have lunch with a industry. And they're like, yeah, that's your job. But
That's
they
your
were
job.
so
Yeah.
not used to being able to leave
Yeah.
the building and go out for
Yeah.
lunch that she felt like she'd asked for
Yeah.
permission. And then finally
Yep.
the boss was like, you're good. Like, this is what
Yeah.
you need to do. Go meet with people.
And see, that's great. But I'll also say, on that same token, the administrative leader needs to make that known to the rest of the school.
Oh,
Because
yes.
I would actually have people, like, I would go and take people to lunch, because that's what business people do.
Yep.
Marnie, if I'm asking you to hire my student, I'm taking you to lunch. Well, guess what? I don't have a budget for it. I don't have a
Yeah.
budget for that, right?
Yeah.
So I would often spend my own money. And then
Yeah.
I had someone, I thought they were probably trying to be funny, but man, is that all you do, go to lunch and eat? And I was like, that's part of my job. Like, I would
Yeah.
just swallow my tongue and just walk through. But I was like, he doesn't know that I'm spending my own money. But yes, that's
Yeah.
part of my, like, so it needs to be protected by the rest of the staff. They need to understand, like, this is their job. They're not teaching in a class. It may be like, it's no less work. It's just different work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not grading papers all day long. I'm going out and but man, those days are hard when you're on the road. You know, sometimes you feel like you're on the road more than Willie Nelson. You're hopping into class, like all of, and then the boss isn't there because you can't schedule your appointments, because, you know, I would have almost 300 students. I'd have to just put them on a map and go visit the people in this area, and then follow up the ones I couldn't meet. Like, that's exhausting and it's tough, you know. Never got a planning period. So letting people do what they're good at doing, and then making sure that's protected in the culture of the school, because that's often not the case. People are often like, well, just get Jason to do it. He was the work-based learning coordinator. He didn't have a fourth block class. That happens a lot in schools.
Oh, yeah.
This has been awesome, Jason. You know, we like to end each of these conversations with asking our guests if you know, what is one leadership rule that you live by, right? And, you know, you've mentioned a couple things. Mine is, you know, always trying to see something from somebody else's perspective. I mean, what's your one go-to rule that we can call the Jason rule that we can put away in our banks to use?
Gosh, I don't know that I've ever thought of it in that context. I would say it's not my premise. I mean, I'm a big fan of servant leadership. I'm a person of faith. And I would say that leadership is I want to be open and honest. That means if I've got to have a tough conversation with you, Nick, I'm going to be like, hey, look, Nick, I love you as a person, but this is a conversation, because I'm not a good leader, and I'm not a good friend if I don't have those tough, honest conversations. But you have to earn the right to have those conversations, right? You have to be involved with people. So I would say some type of servant leadership where, you know, I don't want to be the CEO of this career academy so I can just tell people what to do. Like, I want to be involved in the work. So maybe this, like, if you want to be a leader, your job calls for you to be removed from the classroom, but don't ever forget what it was like to be in the classroom. Because a lot of leadership issues that I've seen in schools come from people who leave the classroom for the next thing, and then it's almost like they just forgot what it was like to be in the classroom. And I hope I never do that. I want to be a servant. I want to have the tough conversations. I want to build a culture. It's not out yet, so I can maybe plug a book. One of my good friends, Mark Covell, he'd be great for y'all's podcast. He runs a career academy called MBIT, Miller Bucks Institute of Technology. And he's writing a book, and he sent me a few pages to read. And man, I was blown away about the culture and leadership. I've heard him speak. We've done some collaborating together. He is just phenomenal. But he talks about building a culture of school safety, not like the safety from threats from the outside. Like, don't ask me to be involved in a curriculum process if the decision's already made.
Yeah.
Like, don't ask for my feedback if I'm going to be penalized for giving you honest feedback. And he talks a lot about these things as a leader. He has been so influential. He probably doesn't even know it. He's been so influential just in the short year and a half we've known each other. I'm really excited for his book to come out. And but that's another one is school safety from the inside out. Like, I can't expect you to give me honest feedback if you're scared
Yeah.
Or if the first time you give me honest feedback, I smack you on the hand and I roll my eyes and I don't, take that
Scared
well,
for a
because
reason.
honest feedback means sometimes you're criticizing me as a leader and saying, Jason, you could do better at this. So building school safety there is phenomenal. And I hope he's okay with me sharing that. But I think it's Mark Covell, Miller Bucks Institute of Technology. He's a good friend and a great leader.
Since you referenced a book, I'll end with one as well. I don't know if you've read Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, but clear is kind is the mantra there, which is basically that just being nice for nice's sake or toxic positivity is not helpful. So honest or clear is what is kind. And I think that would align with your thinking for sure. So we super appreciate you being on the show. And now I'm going to have to chase down your friend as well, I think.
I'll introduce you. He really is great. He's very, very good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jason.
You're very welcome.